Yo, what is up, Sanctuary? It's your boy Theory. And today, I got a question for you. Have you ever pondered that question? What's the value and what's the price check of this magic, this base, this rare, this craft? Is it Charsi? Can I trade it? Is it highly coveted? This is a very common issue and challenge that I see with many newcomers to Diablo 2 Resurrected and even those veterans in the marketplace. There's a lot of existing guides, but a lot of them are subjective and they have what I would define as proxy values. But what I wanted to do today is take us on an academic journey through a variety of public available resources that I find extremely helpful in getting to the root answer of a lot of those questions and ensuring that you can properly define and value the demand and supply economics of your items. I'm going to link all the resources below that we're going to talk through today. And if there is any additional resource that I've missed that you'd like to call out in the comments, please feel free to drop that, and I'm happy to cover that in an additional session. Now let's jump right in and get to the resources. The first property on today's journey and session and how to trade like a pro is Maxroll. I'm sure you've most heard of this likely because of its D2 planning function, its Holy Grail tracker, the guides, and most recently its upgraded D2 drop calc table. But in particular, what we're showing here is an article that was written by Dark Humility, Teo, and some of the contributors and mods that help demonstrate the early valuable uniques and set items. It's very important to understand that many of the elements in Diablo, including rares, of course, magics and crafts, and those uniques and sets, all have specific affixes and staff mods, thus they are variable in nature. That means that there is going to be things such as a low, a mid, and a high roll, which is something we're going to get into on the next property, and I'll showcase you a physical example. But if we scroll down here, you can see that they are easily highlighting some of the most valuable tiered items, both early and end game. What are some of those variables and the most coveted variable that you want to target on those? But one of the things that I love about this article is if you were to do the inverse here on the filter, they can quickly call out what are considered trash, or in this case, charsiable items that really don't hold much merit or worth. It's worth disclosing that this was updated with 2.4 D2R data. So there were some sets that got some upgrades, such as the Naz's Puzzler items. But again, this is a great resource to more quickly vet out those items out of the gate. With that said, we're now going to move on to the next resource, Diablo 2.io. Many of you may have seen my live interview and discussion with the founder and creator of D2.io, T-Bling. There, we talked about the high fidelity and enrichedness of D2.io's database marketplace and discovery ecosystem and forum, but in particular, the applications and updates to the D2.io trade marketplace, which arguably is one of the largest in the ether and a direct alternative to D2JSP. We talked about on the previous session the idea and concept of variables. So if we were to deep link here to an Ormus robe, you can see that across cold, fire, and lightning and the random variables, this gives you an idea of the different, again, staff and affix mods and the low to high end roll. It is very, very important to first classify this as it's a direct function of its value. But from here, what we really want to focus on in this session is the search and the price check function. So in particular, if you happen to find Tal Rasha's guardianship and you wanted to keystroke this in, you can understand very quickly the real-time price transactions that have happened. But in particular, what I love about D2.io, and I've mentioned this before, is the filtering and the syntax that it provides so you can hone in and get very specific. So in this case, if we are a ladder, softcore, and PC player, I can quickly see that very recently, Tal Rasha's guardianship has generally traded for Sur, Ohm, and a few other runes. And so this is a very deep link and very quick way to get an immediate price check. However, at the same time, you actually might be a buyer of an item. So if we wanted to look at, for example, Harlequin Quest on Shaco, I can do a quick search, and once again, in the same way, I can see what is the marketplace and what are they looking for. But what I love to do here is look at sold in particular, because again, it shows me very recently what did Shaco obviously trade for. This is one of my favorite properties personally, but there are alternatives that we are going to discuss. And next up is Traderie. One of the additional online major trade marketplaces and resources is Traderie, arguably a direct competitor to D2.io, and it might have mutually exclusive audiences. However, what I would encourage and recommend is always cross-progression. That is, when in doubt, it's okay to check and use a variety of resources. You can go to D2.io and you can go to Traderie, both for wanting to buy, wanting to sell, and simply price checking items. You might find that the audiences are overlapping or they might be different, and when in doubt, it's always better to have more data points than one. So let's say we keystroke in here Tal Rasha's guardianship. You're going to see very similar to D2.io, slightly different aesthetic in the way that it propagates and queries, but you can easily see with a variety of different filtered functions here, what are people looking for? So again, if you're selling, If you're looking, or in particular, the price check here being recent trades, you can check this as a price check element in addition to D2IO, so you can quickly ascertain what is the logical value of the current marketplace of supply and demand, what's a logical asking price, and am I willing to possibly concede on certain items to make sure that we're moving. Next up, we have a really cool and quirky marketplace that I've recently discovered to help us understand better rares, and that is D2 Charsi Food. Arguably one of the most difficult items to price in the game is both a rare and a craft. And fortunately for us, D2 Charsi Food has built an automated algebraic platform that helps us understand on an index power level and also a standard deviation sigma relative to the marketplace, is this item keepable or Charsi or an extreme value? There are many guides on what I call the eye tests out there that help you do understand rings and things of that nature, and you can continue to use those today. But if you wanted more of a marketplace approach, I would highly encourage checking this out. So what we're going to do today is go through an example where we find a high-end pair of rare boots. In this case, they're called Theory's HORDE. We can input the required level. It's a rare, what is the marketplace, and what we're playing. And here they allow you to add additional mods. So in this case, we're going to do a tri-res with 25 to fire, 25 to cold, and 25 to lightning. Let's then go with the coveted faster hit recovery of 10%, and then we will go with a faster run walk of 30%. So once you keystroke in your inputs and metadata very quickly, you hit submit, and what you're going to see here on the next page is indeed that power score and the sigma that I'm referencing. Again, the power score is individual to the item on a scale of 0 to 100, 100 being elite, a 0 being trash, whereas the sigma compares it to the standard deviation of the marketplace and database of items that those have contributed. And so in this case, you can see that I have a sigma score of 2, which is extremely high end. It is extremely keepable and valuable. But in the inverse, it may have been a situation where this is Charsi. And so once again, this is just another great quick calculus and destination to help you quickly understand both rares and crafts. And finally, we're going to close out with one additional resource, and then we're going to talk about, of course, Discord as an additional way to also look for trading. The final property on today's journey to round us out is PureDiablo. They take a slightly different approach here from D2IO and Traderie on how they acquire price checking value. I think that the density of statistical transactions is not as enriched, and so you might not necessarily see the spectrum of price history and information, but it does take a slightly quirky and nuanced approach of how they surface the information. For one, they do have this really cool carousel across the top, which shows the most recent changes to the items. And so if you wanted to stop it, you saw something, you can notice here that the carousel stops, and upon removing it, it continues. They also do have the deep link alternative option if you want to go to an item. So if I was to deep link here, Talrash's Guardianship, you can see here, it does show some information. It does look at that spectrum. Nothing too sexy or different from the others, but it does give you that as well. But to me, where it really differentiates itself here is this categorical, very deep linked, one-click friendly element here, where if I quickly look at the D2R top 20 items that they've seen, you can look at the low, mid, and the high-end spectrum. This is something we've talked about, and I've given it some airtime, that based on the variable, the role, that is going to be a direct byproduct of what the price is to acquire and sell it, or ultimately what is the price check. And finally, they have a really cool academic resource here if you wanted to look at it, which is based on some classification here. Is my item very friendly, for example, on what a perfect Merc gear would look like? For example, here is Gilliam's Face, G-Skull, Undurials, Reapers, Vampire Gaze. So obviously these items are very good for Merc. It helps you understand its value, not just to the individual character itself, but does it alternatively work well for a mercenary? So with that said, I hope you guys enjoyed the academic online resources. And to close us out on today's review, we're going to show a D2 trading Discord called the Chaos Sanctuary, and a very quick way to also price check in that function. As I noted, many prefer to use Discord as an alternative to the online academic marketplaces. What we're looking at here is the Discord, the Chaos Sanctuary, and it is arguably the biggest destination today for trading within the Discord ecosystem. I am going to link a direct invite for those that want to participate in the community that are not currently in the Discord. You can simply choose here what you play between softcore and hardcore, or ladder or non-ladder, and you'll see here on the left-hand pane all of the different subsequent quantifiable channels pop up on want to sell or want to buy in different classifications. And as I click in here, you can quickly see again all of the different price points and the items that folks are posting. So from a price check and also from a direct acquisition perspective, you can sell your items and also buy. Keeping with the theme of Talrash's Guardianship, you'll see here on the right-hand pane if I did want to understand those that directly do have this available, it of course is going to pull these up. You can see an example of a want to sell, asking Omen Vex, someone that wants to buy. And if you want to actually jump directly to this to directly engage with that individual, there is a very quick way to do that. Alternatively to the Chaos Sanctuary, there is another Discord that I would highly recommend, which is Sanctuary. This is personally also where I spend an intimate amount of my personal time. I love the community here. It isn't necessarily the same trading density as the Chaos Sanctuary, but very similarly, as you can see here, I can choose my role. In my case, I play hardcore, so you can see the want to sell and want to buy function. You have the same search functions in addition to a price check alternative. All right, Sanctuary, that officially wraps up our discussion for today. I hope you all found value in the alternative resources that we reviewed to better help you value and ultimately price check your item to trade like a pro. Before you go, please feel free to like and subscribe so you can get notified when new content hits my channel. And if you want to drop a direct comment below on an alternative resource or you have a question about an item, I'm more than happy to answer directly. As I like to say, keep grinding, stay safe, and see vis pacem parabellum. If you want peace, prepare for war theory.